All right, let's dive into a word you might think you know, Shanzhai. Now, it's often just dismissed as fakes or knockoffs, right? But the real story is so much more surprising. It's a story about rebels, innovation, and, believe it or not, how an entire nation's tech empire was built from the ground up. So when I say the word Shanzhai, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most of us, outside of China, it's probably a very specific and, let's be honest, kind of funny image. Yeah, you're probably picturing stuff like this. Phones that look like a pack of cigarettes, weird gadgets with logos that are almost right, cheap copies, illegal junk. It's mostly treated as a joke, a subculture gag. But what if that's just scratching the surface? What if that whole comical image is hiding the real story? What if Shanzhai was actually the crucible that forged China's entire modern tech industry, from its manufacturing muscle to the huge global brands we all know today? Okay, to really get this, we've got to go back to the name itself, because buried in the word is a massive clue about the spirit behind this whole movement. What's so fascinating is the double meaning of Shanzhai. Yeah, sure, today it means counterfeit goods, but its original meaning, a mountain fortress, like a hidden base up in the mountains for outlaws and rebels. And this is huge because it wasn't just a negative term. It had this heroic, anti-establishment vibe. Think Robin Hood. These weren't just seen as criminals making cheap junk. In a way, they were rebels fighting a system of super high prices and making technology accessible to everyone. So if these are the modern-day rebels, where was their mountain fortress? Well, the whole story kicks off in one specific, absolutely explosive city, Shenzhen. Back in the 80s, Shenzhen basically became this giant sandbox for capitalism, a special economic zone right next to Hong Kong. Foreign know-how and factories just poured in, and out of that, the legendary Huaqiang Bay Market was born, this sprawling maze of electronics parts and gadgets that was, get this, 10 times the size of Tokyo's famous Akihabara. And this created a massive opportunity. Back then, an official phone from Nokia or Motorola cost about 3,000 yuan. That was an entire month's salary for the average person. But these illegal black phones, they sold for a tenth of that price. This wasn't a niche market. This was a giant, untapped hunger for technology. But, making a phone is still crazy complicated, right? You need engineers, designers, the whole shebang. Well, that was true until one company came along with a single innovation that just blew the doors wide open and democratized the entire industry. That company was MediaTek, and they created something brilliant called a turnkey solution. They basically put all the guts of a phone, the CPU, graphics, audio, onto a single chip. Then they bundled it with all the software and a blueprint. All you had to do was design a plastic case for it, and just like that, anyone could be a phone manufacturer. And look at the economics here. It is absolutely insane. The total manufacturing cost for a pretty decent phone back then, we're talking Bluetooth, MP3 player, the works, was just $27. This wasn't just a business opportunity, it was a gold rush. And what's wild is that these little, often family-run teams were basically doing agile development for hardware, like a decade before Silicon Valley turned it into a buzzword. They'd sell phones from a stall over the weekend, get instant feedback from real customers about what they wanted, and have a brand new model ready to go in 35 to 60 days. Incredible. Now, it's really easy to think of this as some small, underground thing, but the scale this movement reached, well, it's just mind-boggling. Just look at this number. At its peak, the Shanzhai industry was shipping over 250 million phones every single year. Let that sink in. That means 1 out of every 4 mobile phones sold on the entire planet was a Shanzhai phone. This wasn't a fringe movement. It was a massive global force. And then came this crucial turning point. In 2007, the Chinese government did something unexpected. Instead of cracking down, they got rid of the restrictive license that had kept these makers in the shadows. This let them go legit. And almost overnight, the industry pivoted from just selling in China to exporting everywhere, flooding markets in Africa, India, and South America with affordable phones. So what happened to this huge, chaotic, innovative industry? Well, here's the crazy part. Its greatest success was creating the conditions that made itself obsolete, paving the way for the next generation of polished global tech giants. This quote from Xiaomi's founder, Lei Jian, says it all. He's not bragging that he destroyed Shanzhai. He perfected it. Xiaomi took the core principles of Shanzhai, low price, high features, listening to your customers, and built a massive legal and beautiful business around it. They took the spirit of the mountain fortress and built a palace. And this right here, this reveals the true legacy. It's what you could call the Shanzhai blueprint. We've seen this pattern play out again and again in China. First, a chaotic gray market pops up to meet a real social need. The government kind of watches and learns, and then it steps in to regulate and legitimize it. And out of that chaos, a huge global industry is born. It happened with phones, it happened with e-commerce, with fintech, even with AI. So this model, born in the wild mountain fortresses of Shenzhen's markets, literally became the engine for China's incredible tech growth. The real takeaway isn't about funny-looking fake phones. It's this question. What's going to be the next global industry that gets built from the ground up on the Shanzhai blueprint?